blizzard, an empty highway, a stranded family waving for help. I pulled over to save them, but when the cops arrived, there was no family, just my fingerprints in every seat. Now they follow me every time it snows. The wind came in sheets, so thick that Eli Turner could barely see past the hood of his SUV. The headlights caught the snow in 1,000 frantic flecks, like static on a dead television channel. His wipers fought a losing battle against the storm, squeaking across the glass with each heavy pass. He leaned forward over the steering wheel, squinting at the vague gray shape of the highway ahead. "Almost home," he muttered, though even he didn't believe it. It was nearly 11 at night, and the drive from the plant should have taken only an hour. But this wasn't a normal snowstorm. It was one of those Midwest blizzards that swallowed whole towns and turned highways into white deserts. He'd seen a warning flash on his phone when he clocked out, a red banner reading blizzard emergency. Travel not advised. He'd laughed it off. He had four-wheel drive, snow tires, a full tank. What could go wrong? Now, with visibility dropping to maybe 10 feet and the wind howling like it had a soul, he wasn't so sure. His hands were stiff on the wheel. He reached for the coffee thermos in the console, but it was long since gone cold. The last gas station had been 50 miles back, a lonely oasis with a single flickering light above the pump. He'd thought about stopping, just to stretch, maybe grab a snack, but he'd been eager to get home. His sister was waiting with a guest room and a warm bed. Christmas Eve was tomorrow. He'd make it. He always did. But the road was vanishing. Snow piled up along the edges, hiding lane markers and shoulders. His GPS kept recalculating, the little blue arrow spinning helplessly. He was somewhere along Route 71, or maybe he'd already missed his turnoff. Hard to tell in a world that had become nothing but white. Then something, a faint, pulsing light in the distance. Red. Faint at first, then steady. Hazard lights. Eli's heart jumped. A car, stranded maybe. Someone else dumb enough to be out here tonight. He slowed down, tapping the brakes carefully so he wouldn't skid. As the SUV crept forward, the shape emerged, a minivan, buried almost to the wheel wells in snow, tilted slightly toward the ditch. He eased onto the shoulder and stopped a few yards behind it. For a long moment, he just sat there, engine idling. The red lights blinked in rhythmic defiance against the storm like a heartbeat. No movement inside. No one waving for help. He hesitated. Every instinct said keep going. This storm was no place to play hero. He had a shovel and an emergency blanket, but not enough to rescue family. Still, what if there were kids in there? The temperature was already below zero. If the engine had died, they could freeze in minutes. "Damn it," he muttered. He pulled on his gloves, grabbed a flashlight, and pushed open the door. The cold hit him like a physical blow, a slap that stole his breath. Snow whipped sideways, needling his face. He hunched his shoulders and trudged toward the van, boots crunching through drifts. "Hello?" he shouted over the wind. "You folks all right?" The beam of his flashlight caught the rear window, frosted over from the inside. He wiped it with a gloved hand, but could barely see through. Figures, faint and unmoving. He moved to the driver's side and tapped on the glass. "Hey, you okay in there?" The window rolled down an inch, then stopped. A man's voice came through, muffled but calm. "We're stuck." Eli bent lower, squinting into the dark interior. The man in the driver's seat looked to be in his 40s, wearing a heavy coat and knit cap. In the passenger seat sat a woman, her hair pale, face half lit by the blinking hazard lights. She smiled at him, broadly, too broadly, like a photograph that had been stretched. "There's a gas station about 10 miles back," Eli said. "You'll freeze out here. I can give you a lift." The man hesitated. His eyes flicked toward the woman, then back to Eli. "You sure? You don't have much room." "I'll make room," Eli said. "Come on. It's getting worse." The man gave a slow nod. "Thank you." Eli stepped back as the doors opened. The wind immediately swept into the van, scattering snow inside. Two small figures emerged from the back seat. Children, bundled in coats too thin for the weather. A boy and a girl, maybe 8 and 10. They clung to each other, eyes wide and unblinking. Eli guided them toward his SUV, helping the woman through the drifts. She moved lightly, almost gracefully, as if the cold didn't touch her. Her smile never wavered. "You're very kind," she said, her voice smooth and flat, like a radio voice on low volume. Not many would stop. "Guess I'm a sucker for good karma," he said. The man followed last, shutting the minivan door behind him. Eli noticed then the hazard lights had gone out, just black windows now, reflecting the snow. He felt a ripple of unease, but brushed it off. Storm or no storm, this was the right thing to do. Once everyone was packed inside the SUV, the air filled with the smell of wet clothes and cold air. The heater whined as it struggled to keep up. Eli glanced in the rearview mirror. The kids sat pressed together, staring out opposite windows. The woman turned her smile toward him, hands folded neatly in her lap. "Where you folks headed?" he asked, pulling back onto the road. "North," the man said simply. Eli waited for more, but none came. "Any particular town?" "Just north," the man repeated. He gave a small laugh, trying to lighten the mood. "That's a big area." The woman's eyes flicked toward him, her pupils so dark they seemed to swallow the light. "We'll tell you when it's time to turn." Something in the way she said it made him grip the wheel tighter. He focused on the road, pretending to watch for exits that didn't exist. The snow was relentless, blurring everything into one endless smear of gray and white. He turned the radio on, static. Flipped to another station, more static. Finally, one came through faintly, playing Christmas music, a tinny old recording of Silent Night. The woman began humming along, soft and perfectly in tune. The children didn't move. After a few miles, Eli cleared his throat. "So, where were you coming from?" "Family visit," the man said. "Oh, yeah? Whereabouts?" The man hesitated again, then said, "Down the road." Eli almost smiled at the absurdity. "Right, down the road." He risked another glance in the mirror. The woman was still smiling, but her lips were trembling now, the corners twitching slightly as if the muscles were struggling to hold the expression. Her eyes were fixed on the side window, though there was nothing to see but darkness and snow. The children were whispering something, too soft to hear over the hum of the tires. Eli turned the heater up. "You all warm enough?" No response. He checked the fuel gauge. Half a tank. Enough to get to the next town if he could just find the right exit. He reached for his GPS again, tapping the screen. It showed his SUV as a frozen blue in a void of white. The woman's voice came suddenly, clear and close. "You missed your turn." Eli flinched. "What?" She pointed at the windshield, though there was nothing there but blowing snow. "The motel. You passed it." "Motel? There's no motel out here." The man leaned forward slightly. "There's one just off the next exit. You can drop us there." He frowned. "I've driven this road for years." "There's no—" "Take the next exit," the man repeated, voice flat. The air felt colder all at once, though the heater was on full blast. Eli's breath fogged the inside of the windshield. He forced a laugh, trying to dispel the tension. "Sure, whatever you say. If I see it, I'll take it." The woman stopped humming. The only sound was the tires crunching through snow. For another 10 minutes, nobody spoke. Eli's thoughts wandered, circling back to the decision to stop. Maybe he should have called for help instead. Something about them didn't add up. The van's lights shutting off, the silence, the strange way they spoke like rehearsed lines. But it was too late now. He was trapped on the highway with them until the storm broke. Outside, the world was empty. No other cars, no signs, no towns. Just the white storm swallowing everything. Then, through the blizzard, a faint shape appeared up ahead. Something dark, standing by the roadside. A road sign. He squinted, leaning forward to read it as they passed. It was blank, just a white metal rectangle. No letters at all. He blinked. Maybe it was covered in snow. That had to be it. "Turn here," the man said suddenly. Eli jumped. "What?" "Here," he repeated. "Take the exit." "There's no—" He looked right and froze. An off-ramp appeared, almost out of nowhere, carved through the snow like it had been waiting for them. He could have sworn it hadn't been there seconds ago. Eli's pulse quickened. He slowed slightly but didn't turn. GPS doesn't show anything that way. The woman's smile widened. Too wide now. It's there. He tightened his grip on the wheel. I think I'll stay on the main road. Thanks. A long silence. Then, softly, the man said, You shouldn't have stopped. Eli's heart skipped a beat. What did you say? But neither of them answered. He stared straight ahead, knuckles white on the wheel, eyes fixed on the snow until the road became nothing but white noise. Eli couldn't remember how long he'd been driving. The blizzard had turned the world into a tunnel of snow and darkness, his headlights carving out a cone of light that ended just a few feet ahead. His dashboard clock had frozen at 11:47, though he could swear more than an hour had passed since he picked up the family. The silence was unbearable. He tried the radio again, nothing but static. Behind him, the family sat unmoving. He could feel their presence more than he could see them. Every so often, he'd catch their reflection in the rear-view mirror. Faces washed pale by the headlights bouncing off the snow, eyes too dark, too still. He cleared his throat. You folks sure that motel's out here? GPS still isn't showing any exits. The man didn't look up. His voice was low, even almost mechanical. Just keep driving. The woman turned her smile toward him again. She hadn't stopped smiling since the moment he'd opened her van door. Her lips looked bloodless, stretched thin across her teeth. It's not far now, she said softly. The way she said not far made something tighten in his gut. He tried to focus on the road. His tires slipped on a patch of ice, fishtailed slightly before catching again. His heart jumped, but when he glanced back, none of them had reacted. Not a flinch. Not even the kids. Jesus, he muttered under his breath. Tough crowd. The girl in the back seat turned her head slowly toward him. Her face was small and round, framed by hair that hung damp and stringy from the melting snow. Her eyes were dark pools. We prayed for you, she said. Eli's knuckles tightened on the wheel. What was that? The boy beside her whispered something Eli couldn't hear, his lips barely moving. The girl smiled faintly, mirroring her mother's eerie expression. We prayed someone would stop. The heater made a faint clicking sound, like teeth chattering. Eli turned it down, his fingers trembling slightly. That's nice, he said after a moment, forcing a chuckle. Guess I was your Christmas miracle. The woman's smile didn't fade. You were chosen. Eli felt the air thicken, like the whole cabin was slowly filling with cold water. Chosen? The man spoke, still staring straight ahead. You should take the next right. There's no road there, Eli said. There will be. He stared out at the blinding wall of snow ahead, half expecting to see another ghostly exit appear like before. But there was nothing, just a highway disappearing under a white tide. He wanted to pull over, to tell them this was insane, to make them get out. But where would they go? The wind screamed outside. If he put them out, he might as well sign their death warrant. That was the trap, wasn't it? He couldn't prove anything was wrong, without looking like a monster himself. He rubbed at his temple. Look, I'll take you to the next town. That's as far as I'm going. The woman's humming began again, low and rhythmic, almost drowned by the sound of the storm. It was the same tune as before, but now it sounded warped, like an old tape playing half-speed. He recognized it now. A lullaby. His mother used to sing it to him before bed, though he hadn't thought of it in 20 years. His chest tightened. How do you know that song? He asked quietly. She tilted her head. Everyone knows this one. But her tone said otherwise. Her humming didn't falter, even when she turned to look at him directly. Her eyes gleamed faintly, reflecting the dashboard light in a way that seemed almost metallic. Eli swallowed. He was sweating now despite the cold. He checked the mirror again and froze. The children were both staring at him. Their mouths were open slightly, lips moving in unison. No sound came out at first, just a faint shimmer of breath fogging the air. Then whispering, a jumble of words too quick to catch. But as his ears adjusted, the meaning hit him like ice water. They were whispering his name, over and over. Eli, Eli, Eli. He slammed the brakes without thinking. The SUV lurched, tires skidding sideways before catching again. The headlights caught a curtain of snow. When the vehicle stopped, everything went quiet. The only sound was his ragged breathing. "What the hell is going on?" he said, twisting in his seat. But the kids just stared at him, whispering still, the sound soft as falling snow. The man finally looked up. "Keep driving." Eli's heart pounded. "No, not until somebody tells me what's going on." The woman's voice was calm, almost pitying. "You shouldn't stop here." Something thudded against the roof of the SUV. Once, then again. Eli froze. The sound was heavy, deliberate, like someone walking across the roof. Careful, measured steps. He reached for the door handle before realizing how pointless that was. The wind outside was still howling. There couldn't be anyone up there. But the sound came again, thud, 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 moving toward the back of the vehicle. The kid's whispers grew louder. He twisted around to look out the rear window, but it was white with frost, nothing visible beyond the glass. His flashlight was buried in the passenger side door pocket. He reached for it, fumbling with shaking hands. "Stay inside," the man said evenly. "Like hell." Eli snapped, pulling the light free. "What's on the roof?" The man's voice didn't change. "You don't want to know." That was enough. Eli slammed the SUV into park and shoved the door open. The wind hit him like a wall of knives. He swung the flashlight up toward the roof, snow blowing sideways in the beam. Nothing, just snow swirling in the dark. He stepped back, craning his neck, and caught a glimpse of something sliding off the far side. A shape, low and pale, gone before his brain could register what it was. He stumbled back into the SUV, slammed the door shut, locked it. His breath came in ragged bursts. He turned to the man. "There's something out there." But the family wasn't looking at him. They were all facing forward now, heads tilted slightly, staring into the storm. The humming had stopped. Eli gripped the wheel again, hands slick with sweat. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "Okay, get it together." He put the SUV back in gear and drove. The storm seemed to close around them tighter than before, the wind screaming louder, the snow so thick it looked like smoke. He focused on the taillight's reflection off the road surface, just enough to keep the vehicle straight. He drove for what felt like hours, the dashboard clock still frozen at 11:47. His stomach twisted with hunger and dread. Every mile, the world seemed to repeat itself. Same curves, same guardrail, same mile marker passing again and again, though he couldn't remember seeing one twice. Then the boy spoke. His voice was soft, but carried perfectly through the silence. "You're almost there." Eli glanced at the mirror. "Almost where?" The boy smiled, his teeth faintly luminescent in the dim cabin light. "Home." Eli's heart lurched. "My home." No one answered. The man reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out, a folded piece of paper, slightly crumpled. Without looking, he handed it over the seat. Eli hesitated before taking it. His fingers brushed the man's hand. It was ice cold, not from the weather, but with a stillness that felt wrong, like touching something dead. He unfolded the paper. It was a photograph of his house, his small two-story in Coon Rapids, the one he'd lived in with his ex-wife before the divorce. He hadn't been there in nearly 2 years, but he recognized it instantly. The crooked porch light, the maple tree leaning too close to the garage. The picture was recent. The snow in the yard was fresh. His throat went dry. "Where did you get this?" The man's gaze didn't move from the windshield. "We've been there." Eli's voice shook. "What do you mean you've been there?" "You invited us in once," the woman said, still smiling. "Don't you remember?" "I've never—" He stopped himself. The words felt weak, useless in the heavy air. "No, you've got the wrong person." The children began whispering again, but this time it wasn't his name. It was an address, his address, spoken in perfect unison. He snapped, "Stop that." Their voices stopped instantly. Eli's hands were trembling so badly he could barely keep the wheel straight. "You know what? Forget the motel. I'm taking you to the police. Whatever game this is." The man interrupted. "You don't want to do that." Watch me." For the first time, the man turned to look at him. His eyes caught the reflection of the dash lights and glowed faintly, like an animal's in headlights. "You can't go where we've already been." Eli's breath caught. He didn't answer. He just pressed harder on the gas, desperate now for a sign of life. Another car, a gas station, anything. But the storm refused to let go. The road wound into darkness again. No towns, no exits, no lights. The SUV's engine hummed steadily beneath the roar wind. The woman resumed humming her lullaby, soft, soothing, almost motherly. It was worse than silence. Eli's eyes burned. He hadn't blinked in what felt like forever. He wanted to scream, to demand they get out, but the words wouldn't form. It was as if something heavy had settled inside his chest, pressing the air from his lungs. He didn't notice the semi-truck until it was almost beside him, its headlights blazing like salvation through the whiteout. He nearly wept with relief. Finally, another person. He honked the horn twice, waving through the window. The truck's driver flashed his lights back once in acknowledgement. "See," Eli said, forcing a shaky laugh. "We'll flag him down. He can radio for help." The man's voice came low. "You don't understand." Eli ignored him. "We'll get you to safety, okay?" The woman's smile faltered for the first time. Her head tilted, and her voice came out small and strange. "Don't." But Eli didn't listen. For the first time in hours, he felt hope, a way out of this nightmare. He pressed the horn again, leaning closer to the window to get the trucker's attention. That's when he realized something was wrong. The trucker wasn't looking at him. His eyes were wide, fixed on Eli's back seat. Eli glanced at the mirror and felt his blood turn to ice. The children weren't sitting anymore. They were standing, right behind him, their faces inches from his headrest, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The woman's hand touched his shoulder, light as a moth landing. "It's time to turn," she whispered. For a heartbeat, Eli couldn't move. The children's faces hovered inches from his, their breath fogging the back of his neck. Their eyes weren't glowing brightly, just a faint shimmer like moonlight caught in glass, but it was enough. He saw himself reflected in them, tiny and distorted, and for a second he swore his reflection smiled back. He jerked the steering wheel instinctively. The SUV swayed in the wind, tires grinding against packed snow, before straightening again. The semi's horn blared, a thunderous warning that rattled the windows. Eli gasped and forced the vehicle back into its lane, his hands slick with sweat. "What are you doing?" he shouted, twisting halfway around in his seat. The kids didn't answer. They just stared, unblinking, lips parted slightly as if mouthing something too quiet to hear. "Sit down," he snapped. The woman's hand still rested on his shoulder, cool and oddly firm. "You shouldn't fight it," she said softly. "It's easier if you don't." "Fight what?" Eli barked. He shoved her hand away. "What are you people?" The man turned slowly toward him. "You already know." Eli's pulse hammered in his ears. "No, I don't. I don't know you. I don't know what this is." The man's expression didn't change. "You knew us once. Before the snow. Before the snow." The phrase landed like a shard of ice in Eli's chest. He had a sudden, irrational memory of another winter years ago. The night of the crash. The one he didn't talk about. His vision blurred for a second, the memory rising unbidden. A slippery road, headlights cutting through snow, a shape in the lane ahead. He'd swerved, heard the impact, the scream, the silence afterward. Then darkness. But that was years ago. He'd told the police it was a deer. No one ever found anything. He gripped the wheel harder. No, you're not real." The man's gaze held steady. "Then why are you so afraid?" The woman leaned closer, her smile trembling at the edges now, like a mask slipping. "You left us," she whispered. "You drove away." Eli's heart slammed against his ribs. "Shut up." The girl's voice came next, soft, sing-song, innocent. "You didn't stop the first time." He slammed the brakes. The SUV fishtailed, snow exploding in white plumes around them. The semi blared again as it roared past on the other side, vanishing into the storm. Eli fought the wheel until the SUV came to a jerking stop on the shoulder. His chest heaved. He looked around wildly. Empty road, no headlights now except his own. The blizzard howled like laughter. He spun toward them. "What the hell are you talking about?" The man reached forward again, sliding the photograph back into Eli's lap. "You've seen us before. You didn't want to remember." Eli picked it up with shaking hands. The image had changed. It wasn't just his house anymore. The family was standing in front of it. The man, the woman, the 2 children. Same faces, same clothes. The woman's smile seemed wider now, distorted by the photo's grain. The snow around their feet was tinted faintly red. He dropped the picture like it burned. "No," he whispered. "No, this is some kind of trick." The boy tilted his head. "You didn't mean to. We know." Eli's breath came in ragged gasps. "You're not real. You're not real." The man's voice was gentle now, almost fatherly. "You made us real." Something flickered at the edge of Eli's vision, movement outside. He turned sharply. Through the swirling snow, he saw the shape of a minivan on the shoulder ahead, half buried in drifts. Its hazard lights blinked twice, then went out. His skin went cold. That was their van, the one he'd found earlier. But it couldn't be. He'd left it miles back. The woman leaned closer, whispering near his ear. "You should have left us there." He shoved the gear shift into drive and floored the accelerator. The SUV lurched forward, tires spinning before gripping the ice. The road disappeared behind him. The phantom van swallowed by the storm. He didn't look back. "I'm taking you to the police," he said, voice shaking. "I don't care what you are." The man didn't answer. The woman's smile had finally faded. She watched him now with hollow eyes, her voice distant. "They won't see us." Eli's laugh came out as a bark. "We'll see about that." He pressed the pedal harder. The speedometer climbed. 45, 55, 65. The tires hissed over ice, and every bump jolted through his arms. He didn't care. The lights of the semi were gone now. It was just him and the endless white. Then, faintly through the snow, a sign loomed ahead. He squinted, eyes burning. "Exit 49, Rest Motel, 1 mile." He froze. That sign hadn't been there before. He'd been driving this stretch for years. There was no Exit 49, no motel. His GPS still showed nothing but blank space. The man's lips curved faintly. "There it is." Eli shook his head, laughing in disbelief. No, that's not real." "It's waiting," the woman murmured. "Shut up," he shouted. The kids giggled softly in unison. The sound was wrong. Too flat, too perfect, like a recording played back through a damaged speaker. The snow cleared just enough for him to see the off-ramp up ahead. The sign glowed faintly green through the whiteout, the words shimmering like a mirage. "Take it," the man said calmly. Eli's chest was tight. His mind screamed don't, but something else, something deep and ancient in him, whispered, "What if you already have?" He slammed the brakes again. The SUV fishtailed wildly, tires losing traction. The world spun in white chaos. He overcorrected, heart hammering, until the headlights caught the dark shape of the semi-truck up ahead, emerging from the storm like a guardian. It was pulled over now, hazard lights flashing. A figure was standing beside it, waving. Relief flooded through him. Another person, finally, someone real. He rolled down the window halfway and shouted, "Hey, help!" The trucker, a big man in a heavy coat, cupped his hands to his mouth. "You all right?" Eli nodded frantically. "Call the cops. There's something wrong with them." The man frowned, stepping closer. "With who?" Eli turned, pointing at the back seat. But the back seat was empty. The woman, the man, the children, gone. The seats were bare except for melting snow and a faint, wet smear across the leather. The air smelled like iron and cold earth. Eli's words died in his throat. The trucker blinked, then looked past him. His face went pale. "Jesus!" Eli turned back toward the windshield and saw them standing in the road ahead. The family, perfectly still, framed in his headlights. The woman's face gleamed pale, her smile back in place, too wide. too calm. The children held hands. The man raised his arm and pointed, not at Eli, but toward the glowing green exit sign behind them. Eli's brain screamed no. The trucker shouted something, but Eli didn't hear. His world had narrowed to the pounding of his heart and the voice inside whispering before the snow again and again. He knew what he had to do. He slammed his foot down on the accelerator. The SUV surged forward, wheels spinning. The family didn't move. For a moment he thought he'd plow straight through them. But the last second, they vanished, dissolving into a swirl of snow. The windshield exploded in light and noise as the semi's horn blared again. Eli jerked the wheel hard to the left. The world turned white. The SUV skidded sideways across the icy pavement, spinning helplessly. The headlights caught the reflection of the semi's trailer, bright silver, close, too close. He screamed, yanking the wheel again. Tires left the ground. The world flipped, twisted, then impact, a deafening crunch of metal and glass. The airbag exploded in his face, smothering him in blinding white powder. The sound of shattering glass mixed with a distant echo of children laughing, fading into the wind. Then silence. When Eli came to, everything was sideways. The SUV was half buried in snow against the guardrail. Steam hissed from the crumpled hood. His head throbbed, blood warm on his temple. He tasted copper. Through the cracked windshield, he saw the semi pulled over ahead, its lights cutting through the swirling storm. The trucker was running toward him, shouting something he couldn't hear. Eli groaned, pushing the airbag aside. His hands shook as he fumbled with the seatbelt. The world outside tilted and blurred. He reached for the door handle and froze. In the reflection of the shattered window, faint but unmistakable, the family stood behind him again. The woman leaned down close, her whisper sliding into his ear. "Now they'll see." Eli screamed. The world was sideways, all white and red. Eli's ears rang, a high thin whine that drowned the wind. He blinked until the blur became the shattered windshield and the swirling snow beyond. The airbag hung limp, dust motes drifting like ash. Every breath tasted of metal. A shape moved outside, a flashlight beam cutting through the storm. Then another. The trucker, coat whipping the wind, boots crunching closer. Eli fumbled with the seatbelt and shoved the door open. It took all his strength. The cold stabbed his skin. His breath came in ragged clouds. "You all right?" the trucker yelled. Eli staggered out, half collapsing against the guardrail. "They're gone," he shouted back. "The family, check the back seat." The trucker climbed to the SUV, shining his light through the shattered glass. "What family?" Eli stumbled forward. The man, the woman, 2 kids, they were right here. The beam of light swept across the empty interior. No footprints in the snow, no coats, no broken glass, but his own. Only the soft hiss of the idling engine and the smell of antifreeze. They were here. Eli's voice cracked. Thank God they were here. The trucker met his eyes, steady, wary. "You hit hard. Maybe you blacked out." "No." Eli pointed at the road. "Ask the cops when they get here." There was a minivan, hazard lights. The man turned his light toward the highway. Nothing, just the endless white, the wind and darkness. Eli's throat closed. The wind carried faint voices, children laughing, or maybe the shriek of metal settling. He couldn't tell. The trucker guided him toward the semi. "Come on, son. Let's get you warm." Inside the cab, the heater roared. Eli sat trembling, staring out at the wreck. The windshield was half fogged, the snow thickening again. Every flake looked too slow, falling through heavy air. "Name's Ron," the trucker said, handing him a thermos. "You want coffee?" Eli didn't answer. His eyes caught on something outside, a faint glow at the edge of the road. For an instant he thought it was another car's lights, but the shape was wrong. Too low, too steady. Ron followed his gaze. "You see that?" "The van," Eli whispered. Ron squinted. "Ain't no van out there, friend." But Eli saw it. A dull silver outline in the snow, hazard lights blinking in perfect rhythm. The same pulse that had stopped him hours ago. And in the strobing red light, he thought he saw 4 figures standing beside it. He lurched toward the door. "Hey!" Ron grabbed his arm. "Where you going?" "They're there," Eli shouted. "Look." Ron looked again and paled. "What the—" He never finished. The lights went out, all at once, as if swallowed by the storm. By the time the police arrived, there was no van, no footprints except Eli's and the truckers. They checked the SUV, the shoulder, even the ditches. Nothing, just snow and silence. One officer found something strange, though. A small black device stuck to the SUV's bumper. A GPS tracker. No serial number, no battery, no manufacturer stamp. They bagged it as evidence. Said it was probably a prank. Told Eli to get checked for a concussion. He barely heard them. He kept staring at the road, waiting for the red blink to come back. It never did. After, the snow melted weeks later. Eli sold his SUV, quit his job, and left Minnesota. He told himself it was a fresh start. New state, new car, no more night drives. But he still woke to tire tracks in the fresh snow outside his apartment. 2 long, narrow prints, always ending at his door. He stopped sleeping near windows. One morning, the mailman handed him an envelope with no return address. Inside was a photograph. His old house again. Only this time, the picture showed him standing in the driveway, looking directly at the camera. And behind him, the family. The woman smiling, the children holding hands, the man watching. Eli dropped the photo and stumbled back, heart hammering. When he looked again, it was gone. Just a blank white square of paper on the floor. He moved again. New address, unlisted number, nothing familiar. But the snow followed. Each winter storm. He'd see them. Reflections in passing windows. Pale faces watching from gas station glass. Sometimes, when he drove at night, the GPS would lose signal, and for 1 second the screen would flicker, a blue arrow surrounded by blank white, and then a message would appear. Take the next exit. And in the mirror, just for an instant, he'd see them in the back seat again, smiling,